Hello, welcome again to the next episode of CXO where we talk to leaders, people who are making strides in Africa, people who are talking business, talking about tech, talking about startups. And today we are privileged to have Napa all the way from, I don't know where. Where do you come from, Napa?
I asked myself this morning, but I'm just grateful I got here. But I'm actually based out of Nigeria, covering sub-Saharan Africa.
I love Nigeria.
Yeah.
I love Lagos, the humming city of Africa.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is
The
this,
city
is
that
this,
doesn't sleep.
is this still humming?
Not only humming, roaring now.
Okay.
Post-COVID, everybody's hustling and trying to catch up, I feel, on the missed years. So yeah, very vibrant, exciting place to be.
Awesome, awesome. Welcome to Nairobi. You saw the expressway?
Of course, I not only I saw the expressway, I heard about the expressway. I've been on the expressway. Like that's all I heard.
So
That
you
there's no more traffic in Nairobi. That the expressway solved all the traffic problems.
awesome, awesome. But we are happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Tell us who is Napa?
Okay, so Napa Onwusah, I am the startups leader for AWS, Amazon Web Services, covering sub-Saharan Africa. And I lead the amazing team of Amazonians that are helping startups on the continent grow and scale their operations. Prior to AWS, I've worked in several tech companies.
I saw you've done Microsoft.
Yes, I have.
You've done Cisco.
Yes.
You've done SAP.
Yes, I've done SAP.
Okay. Which other one have you done?
I've done Google.
Uh-huh.
I've done Nokia Networks.
Okay.
I've done Alcatel Lucent, and I've done Visa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are all big companies, man. How do you do it?
I don't know. Till this minute, I don't know. People are always asking me, what's the secret sauce? I'm like, I don't know. But, I'm just grateful I've gotten to work with some of the best companies in the world, some of the best minds. And working with AWS for me has been amazing because they get the African narrative and they really, really want to work with startups in Africa. So it's a privilege for me.
So in your role, what exactly do you do?
Okay, so we have a very diverse team. We have a team of people that have worked in the ecosystem, either as VCs, as startup founders, as investors. And they bring their experience into the team I lead for us to kind of leverage the vast resources of AWS to help startups grow and scale. So when you're starting up an organization, a company, a business idea, at that moment, you're very passionate about it, but you do need a lot of help. So how we support is we have several programs that help startups. We leverage the experience we have, and we kind of guide you in ways that can help you optimize your tech stack, get access to the vast number of VCs we know, venture capitalists, investors, and then some of the business insights we have. So it's what we do is that we surround the startups with as much support as possible from all angles, so they can focus on actually gaining that traction that they need to be able to take it to the next level. So that's what I do. And I lead the team that does this. And I really want to give them credit because they're all superstars.
Actually, I've dealt with them, but we'll talk about that later. So how did you end up here?
In this role.
In this role, yes.
So, people ask me this, like, how did I started out in Microsoft. I was a telesales specialist.
Wow.
I used to sell on the phone.
Okay.
And now I'm a startups leader, and a woman, a black woman in these organizations. It's a unique role, and there's more diversity happening. But as of the time I was starting out, it didn't look really possible. And people ask me this a lot, like, how do I grow my career in tech? How do I get to these high-ranking positions? And I always say, don't focus on getting to the position. Like, number one, focus on gaining skills, soft skills, hard skills. Number two, focus on value. It's one of the reasons I'm so aligned with AWS is because their focus is customer obsession, and that is me. It's value. So I was always looking for ways I could bring value to the customers that I served and value to the team I worked in. And that sparked a lot of innovation. So there were during the course of my career, there's so many high points that I can think of, things that people said were impossible. And this is a quote I always say. I say that the day I turned 12, I removed the word impossible from my dictionary, and it has never made its way back. So that mindset of looking for what's next, what's big, what's new, how can I bring value, it opens doors for you. And then I do have to give credit to people that went ahead of me that didn't shut the door in my face. They opened the door and they coached and mentored me to come through to next level. So networks were really important as well, and people being open to supporting you through that journey. And a really good dose of grace, I must admit. Sometimes I was just in the right place at the right time, not because of anything in my control, but really grace that met me there. So in a nutshell, focus on doing amazing things. Don't limit yourself. Don't think of the promotion or the level, that if you continue doing the right things, you'll get there.
Talk to me. I know this is something that you're passionate about. Talk to me about diversity, especially around the tech space.
Yes, yes, yes. And I was speaking to some founders, some female founders last night.
Yes.
And I told them when I started, I was always the only female in the room. I was always the only black female in the room. But if you look at the leaders we have now, Google East Africa leader is female.
Yeah.
Google West Africa leader is female.
Yeah.
AWS, my counterpart that handles commercials, female, and me female. We're all black. So we are seeing a lot of effort from the organizations to look for talent, not hire because you're black or because you're female, but hire talent, actively look. And not only hire talent, but build talent within the organization. So look for those superstars in the making. And it's something I do. As soon as I enter an organization, I look for young men, young women that have a spark. And I'm like, whatever I can do to get you to the next level, I'll do it. But I think the most important piece is you have to learn how to advocate for yourself. I say you need to be your own superhero. When you come into a room and you're the only female, the only black female, don't shrink. Make sure that you have the value inside you that you can bring out. Don't be afraid to say it. And if you need to go for training, it's okay. Like if you're not naturally somebody that advocates for yourself, get coaching, get mentoring, it's okay. We all didn't start out being able to walk into the room and say, hey, I'm here. I'm amazing. Don't you think so as well? Yeah. It takes some of us a minute. But diversity for me, and it's not just around gender, race, it's also diversity of thought. I love it when we have different ways of thinking, and it's been proven that boards that have more diversity have a tendency to drive the companies that they govern to do better. So I'm really passionate about that.
I want to agree with you because even and this is another topic that I think is very you like it about startups. I've seen startups that have a diverse kind of leadership or team do better. Is that what you see as well?
No, most definitely, right?
Yeah.
And another key pillar I lean greatly into is growth mindsets. And a growth mindset isn't about growing. People are always asking me, does that mean I have to be taller? And I'm like, no, don't take it so literally. A growth mindset is just one where you understand you don't know everything.
Yes.
And you embrace the fact that you don't know anything.
Yes.
And you're actively looking to learn and understand more. So when you have diversity, you're able to put out an idea and you're confident and comfortable enough to receive feedback, even if it's not positive. Take the feedback, unpack it, and really look at it and say, this is important. And that mindset, not only is it important in terms of the people that lead the startup, but also in terms of how the startup listens to their clients. So sometimes the passion for the project you're doing doesn't allow you to hear what the clients are saying. The client is saying, I want to use your product this way. You're like, no. I saw this product in a dream, okay? When I was 17 years old, this product is going to change the world. I'm going to cure every disease, And you're like, no. Your client is the person you built the product for.
No, I built it for me.
No, you're like, I built it. The customer must use it, the way I built it. But having diversity is not just in terms of, like I said, gender, race, but it's even in your thought process and how you look at the way you build products. And there's something we say a lot in Amazon, and that's working backwards. It's not building something that you think is right, is as you're building, make sure that somebody actually asked you to build that product. There's somebody, and it's something we call in startups product market fit. It just means that your product is fit for a market and you know where that market is and who the market is. Yeah.
So you work for AWS, and AWS is the biggest startup in the world. At least that's what you guys tell us. Is that true?
Move on.
so so I'm just wondering what, because you see, you trust vast the globe. You're in the US, you're in Europe, you're in Africa. Where do you feel African startups are sort of not failing, but are not capturing the real opportunity?
I wouldn't say that African startups are not capturing the real opportunity. I would say that we need to amplify the work that they're already doing. Because the African startup is, I always say they're rock stars. They are solving real life problems. And some of these problems are as simple as making sure there's clean cooking gas that is available in last mile, rural areas or cities that have a certain level of population. Or they're trying to solve for some of the power challenges we have across the continent. So I wouldn't say, I really, really wouldn't say that African startups are failing. I would say that they're a group of passionate, amazing people that have seen a problem and have refused not to be moved by the problem. They have said, this problem moves me. I'm going to dedicate so number of my years to solve this problem for my people, for my continent, for my tribe. And what we need to do in organizations like AWS is to provide the support they need and amplify what they're doing. If you stay in the startup ecosystem and you hear some of the ideas, you would feel like you're being fueled by passion because it's so amazing what they're doing. And we see it. Yeah, we haven't had as many exits as people say, but we've had some unicorns, right? Homegrown talent that have done amazing things. We've had some startups that have gone on to affect lives in a way that an ordinary organization may never. Reducing the time for you to get to a hospital or get an ambulance from 3 hours to 5 minutes. There's so many stories like this. So, no, they're not failing. They just need more and more organizations to recognize the work they're doing, recognize the talent, the effort, and then support and amplify their stories.
Okay. So based on that, which sectors do you feel probably are not addressed enough, or there needs to be more effort into? Because every time I listen or I hear, it's a payment startup, it's a fintech, So is there anything more than fintech?
Of course, we have agri-tech, we have health tech, we have edu-tech. We have now generative AI,
ChatGPT stuff.
ChatGPT, or you could hear Drake singing on Spotify and find out it's not him, So there are lots of AI technologies that are coming out. The thing is, there's an estimate again, that we have between 13,000 to 18,000 startups on the continent. So they're not predominantly fintech. The reason I feel fintech is so front and center is because it's something that impacts people on a daily basis, right? And you're able to use a lot of the platforms. And we have accelerated a lot of our knowledge around fintechs. In fact, AWS just launched the Africa FinTech Accelerator, first of its kind. Okay. And we've done a lot of white papers and research into fintechs to support that community. And we want to be able to use those learnings and support the other verticals we see. But you probably may not hear about a health fintech until you need medication and you go on Google and you find out, oh my God, there's a fintech that allows me to get my medication immediately, right? So that is what I feel. I don't think there's particularly any vertical that's underserved. And in AWS, we do have a lot of content around the different fintech verticals: energy, health, agriculture, education, etc., and so forth. And as we work with the startups, we're able to direct them to a lot of that content that we have that's globally relevant, but also tailored for our Africa continent.
Okay. So when I did I used to do some startup work in my past year, in my past life, and I used to see four countries dominating the African startup ecosystem, if you want to call it that. So that was Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Egypt. Has that changed?
I would say that's where we're seeing the most activity.
Okay.
But I mean, a lot of governments are recognizing that startups sometimes is the quickest way to solve for generational wealth. And you know, in Africa, we do have a bit of challenge around that topic. And then for job creation.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you've heard about Rwanda and their startup city they're trying to do. So there are now policies that are coming out that support startups, which is extremely encouraging. Because if you have an idea, in AWS, we have a program, it's called Startup Loft Accelerator. So if you have an idea, you can register online, it's virtual, for the Startup Loft Accelerator and go through a 10-week program. At the end of the 10 weeks, you would have learned what kind of technology stack you need. You would have learned what kind of business models you should look at. You would have learned how to pitch to potential investors. And you would kind of have something that you can go to market with in 10 weeks. So imagine with that, we have governments that are now promoting startups and telling startups, or telling young people, entrepreneurs, look, we want to support you. We want to help you get the next big idea. And then they're getting the support to take that idea all the way down to it being, relevant and in market. Then that's amazing. So yeah, they're primary markets because there's so much activity there. But there's so many
just
other.
make a lot of noise?
What are you saying? No comment. No, but we're seeing activity in so many other areas, like so many other countries. So
Okay.
it's good.
Yeah.
It's really, really good because it solves for us in Africa those two big problems, creating wealth and then also creating jobs.
Okay. Do you see corporate venture building across Africa?
Yeah, we're seeing in terms of more venture capitalists being local.
Being local and also being corporates, a company like Safaricom, to put money into startups.
We're seeing more of that,
Yeah?
for sure.
Yeah.
By the time you hear about a couple of exits and you hear about a couple of unicorns, it's a great motivator, right? But we really want to encourage more of us investing in ourselves, right? And you see this in several of the larger startups that have transcended certain thresholds in terms of revenue and generation. They are coming back to say, I'm looking for younger entrepreneurs that are still beginning in their journey. I want to support them. I want to invest in them. It's beautiful to see.
That's how Silicon Valley became Silicon Valley.
Exactly. And isn't it great when it's for us, by us, with us?
I totally agree. with
That is it. So it's something that we definitely not want to, because we can't influence it, of course, but where we see local VCs and corporate companies, and we have some smaller angel investor outfits, they're not as large as the VCs, but they're very interested in kind of giving back. Definitely, yeah.
Okay, so I was reading somewhere that in the first quarter of this year, there's been like 20 deals worth about 1.2 billion US dollars. Where is that money coming from?
I don't know. Yeah, but there's I think there's a general like worldwide downturn in investing
Yeah.
that we're seeing. It has impacted Africa a bit, but we're still seeing deals being done. And for a lot of the funds, I can't speak for them where they get their funding from. We are seeing more of the funds coming from within the continent, which is fantastic.
Okay.
And we do hope that we see more startups grow into certain levels of revenue, where that can encourage more investment. Because where you see success, you want to invest more. You know,
In
so
fact, that has been one of the talking points in a lot of places that we hear of startup X has raised X number of money or X number of dollars, millions of dollars, but then that's the end of it. You don't hear anything after that.
I actually know of one
Yeah.
that raised XXX million dollars,
Yeah.
and after that announcement, there has been absolutely no comment. But we are working with them directly, and they're doing amazing things.
Okay. So it's putting their head down to work.
Some people,
Okay.
some people.
Okay.
The ones that I know of, some that are really doubling down to make sure that that investment isn't misused, mishandled, and they, like they say, they sip their cash. So they're not trying to gulp it. They're just taking a little by little. So they're very focused on working. And the tendency is people forget that startup founders are extremely busy. Because they're not like an enterprise that has a finance department, has a HR department, that has a legal department. Most founders are wearing every single hat that exists in their organization. They are getting feedback from customers. They are the first salesperson. And then they are also the people that engage pitching for funds and keeping the investors happy. So I tend to appreciate when the startups are spending as much time as possible investing in their business and growing their business, because it is complex and backbreaking work, to be honest. It's not an easy ride. So when you see the funding rounds, you'll be like, oh my God, I wish I was a startup founder. And you forget that maybe he pitched to 68 organizations in 3 continents and got 67 no's and 1 yes. And you forget that while he was pitching, his product he was going through product market fit. So there was a lot of feedback coming through, and he needed to drive that, right? And then he was looking for talent and hiring. So just to put it a bit in perspective, that and there would always be bad actors, we know that, but they have a lot that they do.
What's the biggest or the 2 biggest reasons why startups fail?
They're quite a number, right? But like you said, the 2 biggest reasons, I think one of the things I have seen, and if there's a startup listening to this, please, it's just experience. Because I consult for startups.
They'll beat me.
Yeah. He's the one. He's the one that you asked the question. I think sometimes it is when you are not spending the time required to build the foundation of the organization. So there are 3 key areas. The first one is you have to get product market fit. And like I told you in the beginning, you have somebody very passionate about their product, their idea, and you're not really listening to the feedback, because the feedback with your customers tells you what your product is. You have put together what you think your product should be. The people that use your product tell you what it is.
What it is, yeah.
This is what it is, right? So that feedback, that product market fit is incredibly important, right? Because once you've kind of had your niche customers, you can now have your early adopters. You already know the persona of your customer. My customer is a person that's really busy, has this kind of thing. So you know where to look for customers to grow. Because a startup is, people say it's a business, it's true, but a startup is really an idea whose time has come that many people need. And that's why traction is so important in the startup world. So that's the first thing, product market fit, right? And then the second thing is people. And whenever I'm talking to founders or CTOs or heads of engineering, I said, I know you're looking for skill, but it's also good to look for somebody whose mindset is that when you give me a problem to solve, I'm excited about it. I'm not saying a no. Because during the growth stage, there's so much iteration, there's so much feedback, there's so many things you need to change. And the person has to feel so motivated, or the people, your team, have to feel so motivated to address that. So, there's the skills issue, but, putting that together, so people. And then the last one is systems. So you see a startup that has a great idea. Maybe I have a traveling kit for influencers, a traveling podcast kit, right? So I'm looking for influencers to use the podcast kit. So I need to save their data, right? And I will go and buy a laptop and put software on it and say that's my server for my information, right? And then you get somebody to manage that. No, don't do that. That's not a good system because it means you can't scale.
True.
Yeah, so that's where a partner like AWS is brilliant because it means you only consume or you only pay for what you use. And in AWS, we're very particular about you paying for only what you need. So we actually have technical support for founders to make sure that you have a very well architected stack. So you're not picking up, products, right? And then you may have payment rails as well, right? So most startups, you don't build what you need, you like build on top of something else. So you may have a payment partner. If you're scaling, is that payment partner the right partner to use when you're looking forward? So if you focus on those three things and then focus on your clients as your customers and not the VC as your customer. So you're not building a business that looks good to invest in, but you're building a business that clients, if you take away that service, it will impact them in some way. That's what you're building, right?
Okay.
Once you have those three, yeah, you're pretty much good. But once you try and maybe scale, you don't have product market fit, you don't hire talent, or you hire skill, not passion, you don't have the right systems in place. Yeah, it's not a good recipe or not a good foundation.
Okay. Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. So, in terms of what impact are you looking for in Africa? In say for in the next 1 year or 2 years, what do you expect to see based on the work that you're doing?
Impact in terms of
What are so you're putting a lot of effort
yes,
as Napa and also as AWS in this space.
and my team.
Yes, and your team. Yes, your
Yeah,
team.
my
Your
team,
team. Your
my
team.
team.
Your team. So what's the end goal for you? What are you expecting?
So when I joined AWS, there were a couple of priority areas, and number one for my team and I is we want to support the startups. That is like number one, and it's usually somebody will say we want to make this amount of revenue or we want to be in a particular position in the market. That isn't what is in focus for us. What is in focus is if there is a startup, an organization, how can we help you to scale? How can we help you to grow? What resources do we have that we can possibly make available to you? And that's why we did the FinTech Accelerator for Africa, the first ever. That's why we have our Activate program.
Can people? How do people access that?
Oh, I can give you the link, but you can just search for it. AWS FinTech Accelerator. We did it with VB as a partner to be able to get people that have great ideas around fintech through. But we also have our Startup Loft Accelerator, which is for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And because diversity is very big for us, we want to make sure a certain percentage of that global audience is from Africa. And that is great alumni, great network. You get professionals, you get people that talk about business, tech, talk about how to raise funds. And you don't even need to have your idea fully formed. It could just be an idea, and we kind of help you pull that through for 10 weeks. So if at the end of a year or two, we see startups that potentially may not have grown or done as well, not only doing well, expanding across the continent, so they're solving Pan-African problems, and also recruiting, hiring talent, and then giving back to the ecosystem. So whether it's through training, whether it's through mentoring, whether it's through sharing of their own experience, that would be beautiful for us. Because what it means is that we've provided a platform and we've kind of directed global resources to Africa to make sure that we're able to sustain, kind of that momentum.
Okay. Okay. Great. No, that's really beautiful, and I think I want to encourage all the startups out there. Check out AWS and the various possibilities that you can have for your startup. I remember this in my past life again. I used to
You
be,
have to tell me about this past life. Like, I wanted to probe, but I'm trying to be a really good guest.
I used to distribute what do you call them? They activate credits for
You were
yeah,
an
yeah, yeah.
Activate Credits partner?
Correct. Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
I
No, what
was.
happened? Talk to me. I'm here
That's
for
another
you.
story for another day.
Okay.
So, as we come to a close, I always ask my guests, what is the one thing, one, that nobody in AWS knows about Napa? What is that one thing?
I can't sing to save my life. No, it's the weirdest thing. Like, people think every African can sing and dance. I don't know why, but I cannot dance and I cannot sing. So yeah, I think that's one thing nobody knows about me.
How can you not sing and how can you not
You
dance?
see what I mean? You're not being inclusive right now. No, I can't dance. Funny story. There was a day I was singing and I was really into it. And my husband has a beautiful voice. And he comes into the room and he's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I thought somebody was dying." I still remind him to this day about it. So, yeah, but it's my voice and I'm owning it. Growth mindset.
Thank you so much, Napa. It's been really nice talking to you, and I wish you all the success in your plans and making sure that startups in Africa grow, scale, and they become the biggest companies in the world.
I hope so
That's what
too.
we want.
That's what we want.
Yeah. So thank you for all the assistance, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. We were speaking to Napa, who is managing the startup engagement at AWS. And you've heard, there's several support systems, products, and services that you can benefit from. If you're running a startup, please check out AWS. And that's it for today. Thank you and see you next time.